Paris, April 1925. In a suite at the Hôtel de Crillon, one of the most expensive addresses in the city, 6 of France's biggest scrap metal dealers are listening to a government official explain the unthinkable. The Eiffel Tower is falling apart. The city can no longer afford to maintain it. And so, in strict secrecy, France has decided to sell it. 7,000 tons of iron, to the highest bidder. What none of these men know is this. The elegant gentleman at the head of the table does not work for the government. His letterhead is forged. His name changes every few weeks. And he is about to pull off one of the most legendary scams in history. Twice. This is the true story of Victor Lustig, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower. Lustig was born in 1890 in Bohemia, in what is today the Czech Republic. He was clever, he was charming, and he was completely allergic to honest work. By his early 20s he spoke 5 languages, and he had found his first hunting ground. The luxury ocean liners running between Europe and New York. First class was packed with rich, bored passengers, and Lustig worked them like an artist. His favorite tool was a small wooden box. He called it the money box. Lustig would casually let slip that this machine could print perfect $100 bills. The only problem, he would sigh, was that it needed 6 hours for every single note. Then came the demonstration. He fed blank paper into the box, turned the tiny brass cranks, and out slid a genuine $100 bill. 6 hours later, another one. Both real, both checked by the bank. Of course they were real. Lustig had hidden them inside the box before the show ever started. But he never had to convince anyone. Greed did the selling for him. Victims begged him to take their money. Some paid $10,000 for a box of worthless wood. Then they sat at home, cranking, waiting 6 hours, then 12, then a full day. And by the time they understood what had happened, Lustig was 2 cities away, living under a different name. He would be arrested more than 40 times in his life. And almost every time, he simply talked his way back out of the door. In the spring of 1925, Lustig was sitting in Paris reading a newspaper, when a small article caught his eye. The Eiffel Tower was in bad shape. Repairs were expensive, and the city was struggling to pay for them. Most people would have turned the page. Lustig saw the con of a lifetime. Remember, in 1925 the Eiffel Tower was not the beloved symbol it is today. It had been built as a temporary attraction for the World Fair of 1889, and it was never meant to stay. Plenty of Parisians still considered it an eyesore and wanted it gone. So the idea that the government might quietly scrap it? Completely believable. Lustig had official government stationery forged, and gave himself a title. Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. Then he invited the 6 most important men in the French scrap metal business to the Hôtel de Crillon. Total secrecy, he told them. If the public finds out too early, there will be outrage. The dealers nodded. Of course. That is exactly how governments work. Then he took them on a tour of the tower in rented limousines, and watched. He was not choosing the highest bidder. He was choosing the perfect victim. And he found him. André Poisson. A businessman from the provinces, desperate to prove himself to the Paris elite, insecure, hungry for respect. When Poisson hesitated, Lustig played his masterstroke. He took him aside and lowered his voice. You know how it is, he said. I am a government official. My salary is small. Men in my position sometimes need a little encouragement. He was asking for a bribe. And that detail was pure genius. Because nothing on earth feels more authentic than a corrupt French official asking for cash under the table. Poisson stopped doubting. He paid for the tower, and he paid the bribe on top. Days later, Lustig was on a train to Vienna with a suitcase full of money, waiting for the scandal to explode in the newspapers. But the scandal never came. Nothing. Silence. Poisson was so ashamed of falling for it that he never even told the police. And when Lustig realized that, he did something that separates him from every other con man in history. He went back to Paris. And he sold the Eiffel Tower again. Same hotel. Same forged letters. Same speech. A new group of scrap dealers. But this time, one of the buyers got suspicious and went to the police. Lustig slipped out of the country hours ahead of the arrest warrant and fled to America. And there, he pulled off something that might be even crazier than selling the Eiffel Tower. He decided to con Al Capone. Yes. That Al Capone. The most dangerous gangster in America. Lustig walked into his office in Chicago and asked for $50,000 for a stock deal that would double the money in 2 months. Capone handed it over, with a warning about what happens to people who cross him. 2 months later, Lustig came back. He put the entire $50,000 on the table, untouched, and apologized. The deal fell through, he said. I am sorry. I could not double your money. Capone was stunned. In his world, everyone stole from him or feared him. And here was an honest man down on his luck. He peeled off $5,000 and gave it to Lustig as a gift. Which was the plan all along. Lustig never wanted the $50,000. He wanted Capone to hand him money with a smile. In the 1930s, Lustig finally went too far. Together with a chemist named William Watts, he built a counterfeiting operation that flooded America with fake $100 bills. The notes were so good that banks accepted them for years. The Secret Service called them Lustig money, and hunted him across the entire country. In 1935 they finally caught him in New York, carrying a key to a locker stuffed with tens of thousands of counterfeit dollars. And even then, he was not finished. The day before his trial, Lustig tore bedsheets into strips inside the Federal House of Detention, climbed out of a window, and calmly pretended to be a window cleaner, wiping the walls as he lowered himself down the building in broad daylight. Then he vanished. For 27 days, he was the most wanted man in New York, until agents grabbed him in Pittsburgh. The court gave him 20 years, and sent him to the one place built for men who always find a way out. Alcatraz. The island fortress. The same prison that held Al Capone. And there, the great Victor Lustig simply faded away. In 1947, he died of pneumonia, under a false name, in a prison hospital. And on his death certificate, under occupation, someone wrote 2 words. Apprentice salesman. The greatest con man who ever lived, filed away as a beginner. As for the Eiffel Tower, it is still standing in Paris. Still not for sale. No matter what a charming man with official papers might tell you. If you enjoyed this story, there is a lot more true history that sounds completely made up. Subscribe to Mind Rush, and I will see you in the next one.